Yo, it's Guido coming at you with a tank review, and today what have we here but the Iron Arnie. Alright, I'm a little late getting to the reviews right here. Obviously, these have been out in the boxes for a couple weeks now, actually. Maybe, goodness gracious, it's the 16th of December, so they've been out for a while. This is actually good because we can take a look at how they've been doing it. If you're sitting on the fence, wondering whether you want to chuck some money at boxes and try to get some of these tanks, we'll knock out some of the reviews on these things. We're going to start with the Iron Arnie, which is an M47 improved variant, I guess. I'm a little confused because when I looked at all the pictures of Arnold and his tanks, they don't have all this spaced armor. However, there's an M47 improved that's in the files that looks exactly like this. So I don't know if there's any other stats differences between them. We're not going to really get into that. It's the same model, though, in terms of the spaced armor and I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why the Iron Arnie had to have the extra armor. Don't know. If you guys have any more, I don't know, essay or input to it, go ahead and chuck it down in the comments. I actually asked a question to the Wargaming folks, and everyone seemed to think I was insane that that's Arnold's tank. Well, it is. It's 331. Apparently, the tank that he crewed, I think it is the actual tank from Australia, as I understand it anyway, that he ended up buying. But I don't think it had this armor. Maybe it did later. Maybe it was an upgrade that happened. I don't know. The pictures of him on it don't have all the extra armor. That's all I want to say. So it is a Tier 8 American premium tank. As you can see, it's a 4-crew tank. I happen to have the Offspring boys in there, but it's got a commander, gunner, driver, and loader. The commander is the radio operator, as I recall. Let me just make sure. Yep, there you go. Don't want to give you any bad dope on that. I am running it with a turbo. I've got an IA and a rammer right there. We'll talk a little bit about why we're running that stuff when we get into its stats and comparison and all that good stuff. It does have AP, which is going to run you at a really nice penetration of 230 for a standard round. That is very good. And 300 for heat. Now, it is heat on the one hand. On the other hand, it's 300. So not bad in terms of gun. We'll talk about its handling, a little bit questionable. And a 420 average HE with a pen of 40 or 53. I ran large kits. I did run cola, again, partly because of the gun. I do have another setup. Do I have cola there too? I don't remember. Yes, I do. And I have not unlocked field mods for an extra setup with equipment. Another possibility would maybe be a vision setup. Chuck on some vision on there. Maybe take the turbo off or the IA, something like that. So you could play around with that. I found this to be a pretty good setup. Let's take a look at a comparison amongst its peers, talk about that just a little bit, and then we'll go and look at what my stats ended up being in this tank. Comparison. All right. I picked the AMBT, the 122TM, the Astron Rex, and the Super, although the Super is a preferential. Why did I pick those? A couple of them are pretty strong turrets. Actually, all of them are fairly strong turrets. I like the AMBT quite a bit. It's one of the newer premiums, although it is an auto reloader. The 122 is, I think, a similar play style with good gun depression and a very strong turret and a relatively slow reload. Although it does have the Iron Arnie in terms of alpha by about 80 or by 80. The Astron Rex is a auto reloader, but also one of the top premiums in the game. And then just a little bit with the Super Pershing comparison because it's a lot like a better Super Pershing. So what do we have with the Iron Arnie? We've got average damage of 320, which is pretty good. Lowest of all these, or tied for lowest with the Astron, although again auto loader, and 240 on the preferential Super Pershing. The gun stats, as I have been alluding to, are not great. It's a 10-second plus reload, so that is quite a long time for a 320 alpha. And if we come down here really quickly, fellas, we can see that the average damage is fairly anemic, although it's not as bad as a 122 TM. It's at 17, right under the AMBT, and the Astron Rex has it by a couple hundred. Interesting that it's an auto reloader and an auto loader with better DPM than a cyclical. That's fairly significant. This is something of a plodding tank plodding along slowly in terms of shooting rounds downrange. Very strong hold down tank. Dispersion is at 0.42, which is one of the highest, if not, it is the highest here. An aiming time of 2.88 is the top. So, gun is quite derpy. It is long to reload, and you do not have a whole bunch of alpha. 320 is nice, but it's not amazing. So derpy gun, long reload, low DPM. This is a tank you have to be careful with. But the good news is, as we slide down here to the armor, this is where the tank starts to shine. Whole armor of 102 with decent angling. That's pretty good compared to the rest of these. Only the 122 is better. Turret armor 330 with spaced armor. Holy cow, this thing is hard to pin. We'll take a look at the armor profile in just a moment because it does have a weak spot on there. Unlike the Super, though, which only shows 102 but has pretty significant spaced armor, but a lot of openings to shoot into the cheeks and the face and whatnot right there. The Arnie just doesn't have that. Its spaced armor is closed in pretty darn good. So it doesn't have those little weak spots that you can aim at. Other than one. There is one. There is a hatch on top. Mobility is decent at 40 kilometers, 15 backwards. I didn't notice that the Aston Rex actually goes 30 backwards. That's insane. That is really good. That is amazingly good. 14 backwards. Specific, something like that. Not bad. So it will get up and go to its 40 kilometers an hour. That's why I ran a turbo. 40 is okay, but it doesn't really feel like a medium. The turbo will add a little bit more. The spotting is nice at 390, so it's right there at the top with some of the rest of them, although some of it's hidden there under the graphic. And the signal range is super important at 745 or something. Well, what do we have in terms of that? We look at all these other tanks. You know, it's similar to the 122 TM, but it's got better DPM overall. It doesn't have that 400 alpha stick, that big slam it kind of stick. The turret's similar to these other guys. And again, it's an auto reloader and an auto loader. I just wanted to throw those on there, compared a little bit, because both of those are pretty good tanks. They're both American tanks, and you may be looking at that going, well, which American tank do I want? Do I really need 3 premiums? Yes. The collector in me says yes. But you may not be thinking that yourself. Let's look at the armor profile. All right, Mr. Iron Arnie, here it is. Looking at tanks.gg. They've changed this around a little bit. It's kind of cool. Now you've got these spaced armor has this kind of clear section on it. So if we hover our mouse over that, we can see that we have 260 effective armor and 65 of it is spaced with the impacted at 101. So that's quite a bit of armor right there. Holy cow, not bad. We get into the turret, but look at this, 362 effective with the 65 spaced. That's pretty thick spaced armor, actually. Another 65 millimeters of spaced in there. So very strong turret, very difficult to pin in any one of these spots around here. The mantlet is even more stronger-ishly, but we do have the ring weakness right here, and it is fairly pronounced, actually, on the patent Pershing things right here. So you can get some shots snuck underneath there, and of course, what I talked about earlier is the commander's hatch, the cupola, and yes, that is quite weak. And it's not massive, say like a 110 E5 cupola and some of the other ones, or maybe even the Aston Rex, which has a really large cupola up there. But it is a significant size. And remember, when you're hull down or coming up over a ridge, that's the first dude they see, right? That's the first part of the tank that comes over. So be careful with that. Lower plate, there are some spots it looks like you can get to just underneath here, right underneath the spaced armor piece, that are a little bit weaker, but getting into the spaced armor, you know, heat is going to have a big problem with that. So pretty dang good. Straight on armor profile. The turret is nice. It's relatively rounded enough, so if you do come over ridge and you've got your turret turned a little bit towards people, it's not quite as bad. But you'll see as you get at an angle like this, all right, that's much less than it was. Still, you're dealing with spaced armor and all that good stuff. Just for grins, this is the 47 patent that's in the files. Okay, same tank, I believe. Same tank. All right, I got a good, or one game. It's not necessarily a great game. It's an okay game, but it will show you how the Iron Arnie works out there. But let's just talk about, with my setup, what I got out of the gun, because I wanted to tame the gun handling with this setup. We have 9.13 on the gun loading, so I brought myself at least a second, or bought myself a second by using Brothers in Arms, Cola, and a rammer. All right, we're at 2.69 aiming time. That's much better than over 3. Okay, so we're getting there, or I guess it was 2.88. It's interesting, that actually didn't come down that much. So you're only getting 0.12 out of the Cola and 0.06 out of the Brothers in Arms. So it comes down a little bit. This was the big one, though, getting from 0.42 to 0.38. So I've almost, this says I brought 5 off of it, but you got break points or rounding up, rounding down. So from 0.42 to 0.38 is not bad right there. 0.38 starts to feel like a sort of accurate gun. Still, you're talking, this is really getting in the regime of the Russian 122 kind of handling on the heavy tanks right there. And it did crank my DPM up to 2103. So that's actually pretty nice. Obviously, that stuff doesn't do a whole lot to any of the other stats, except that I'm going to get 45 forward and 18 backwards by using the turbo. And we should get in here. There we go. All right, let's take a look at a game in the M47. Is it just Iron Arnie, or is it called the M47? M47 Iron Arnie. There you go. Okay, we got a game on Safe Haven right here. We're going to go hold down using the strengths of what I believe to be the strengths anyway of the Iron Arnie. Obviously the turret, hold down fighting, ridge sniping, that kind of stuff. You can see that with the way I've got the gun set up, it's a little bit better than you might think with a .42. Some guns feel a little more accurate than the dispersion shows. Some of that has to do with the soft stats on the thing and the extra dispersion negatives and bonuses and such. Based on moving the tank, moving the hull, moving the turret, all that good stuff. So we're just kind of coming in here, taking a look. Because it's so strong, relatively armored on the front, it sort of can play like a pocket heavy to some extent. Like many of the mediums with good armor that can get up into medium places and do some bullying with its armor, this is one of those kinds of tanks right there. So we'll just sort of, I thought about going on the corner, but there's just so many things back there. We got a CS-52, we got a Scorpion, we got a bunch of guys fighting in the middle right there. So we'll come up here and try to get a shot on the BZ. We'll let the dispersion come in there, take a shot, bounce. Rust shot. I should have waited a little longer. I might have been able to aim a little bit better and potentially get a shot there that wasn't going to bounce. It was the side of the BZ though, so we'll take another shot at him. That missed, hit something else. We'll back out of that. It was a heat round into the side of a tank, so potentially into the tracks as well. Always a danger with the heat round. So it's nice to have all the pen with the 300 pen, but again, you're flinging heat rounds around, and so you're going to have the standard heat round problems. 34-3 gets nuked, and things are looking pretty good up top here. I can see the even 90 making a move. I really should have switched either to HE or potentially just AP for the even 90, because I could have it eat a track or have a track eat it, right? So I get lucky in there, you get a 271. That's a heck of a low roll. That is very unfortunate on a 320 Alpha. We'll back out. I don't want to chase him down. He's got a lot of friends in the middle. There's still the LIS and the Scorpion up top. No sense in selling out right at the moment. Things are looking pretty good, although we've lost 2 even 90s. Not as big a deal on this map, to be honest. Scouts are nice to have, and I don't know what this Cape Cannon and Jagdpanzer 105 is thinking, but he just YOLOs in. I was kind of hoping he would light up the Scorpion or the CIS, but neither one of them was around or didn't want to shoot or whatever the case may be. Get reloaded. There's that long reload. You know, with mediums, in a situation like this, I would take that shot, and then most mediums in the 6 to 8 reload range would let me to get reloaded and push right in there and help the even 90, but look at how long that takes with 9 seconds. That's more of a heavy timing kind of idea with the reload. As you play this game, you'll have to take a little stab on the way. It doesn't work. You start to get a feel for the timing on tanks, and you're in a heavy or a medium. You say, all right, heavy is in that 10 to 12 range. That's comfortable, right, for most tanks, especially at tier 8. And then you're in a medium, you're thinking 6 to 8 maybe range in a medium. And when you start to play, that's the kind of timing that you've got in the background. Well, this one is more of a heavy timing, so it will catch you out a little bit. We've only got 271 damage. We're going to be able to, just a miss right there. You know, that's that .38 working against you, and maybe a little bit of a rush shot. It did not wait for it to get zoomed in. The LAS bails off, so I'll let him do that. I see the Scorpion up here. He does not seem to be paying attention to me. He's busy shooting the Cannonen. Look at that reload. I'm just waiting. Oof. Pressed HE to go shoot the Scorpion, and then stop to shoot the LIS, and what do we get? The old 56 hit point. This guy doesn't see me, so we'll just come around, we'll auto-aim him and thump him with the HE. Look how long that reload is. Get a nice 454 off that guy. We'll go to regular AP. I'm watching the Scorpion come around. We'll just go after him right here. See, the mobility's not amazing, but it's enough to do some medium things. He gets a nice hit on me right there. That's close enough that I can auto-aim that guy and not worry too much about missing. Get a little bit surprised by the the T92 right there. Enough accuracy to hit him. And I get a little bit worried. Now, this is where it gets interesting, folks, and one of the reasons why I wanted to show this game. You know, I'm on, kind of at a paltry 1,286. It did give a bit of an example of the hold down stuff. Showed you that the mobility is decent, not amazing. A little bit of the derpiness when you start talking medium to long range shots. You really need to let that thing zoom in. Once it gets zoomed in, it's not too bad like most dispersion .38 guns are. But here's where it gets kind of interesting, at least to me, because of the armor profile of this tank. Got the T92, so we'll just come around. We're going to nuke him. There we go. He actually gets 154 damage on us. All right, so the front is pennable. He may have got into my side just a little bit. But now we're about to face a G-Sword. Now I think, based on what the G-Sword's been doing, he's on a reload. So I decide, well, you know what? He's just coming at me like he owns me. What I don't want to do is let him just keep shooting into my lower hole. All right, so let's just go face hug this G-Sword and give a test of the old Iron Arnie armor and see how that goes. I am auto-aiming him, being lazy right there, and I bet that's what he does to me here. We come in, see what he's doing with the gun. It's hard to tell. All right, so one penned. Now I'm thinking, crap, he's reloaded. He's got me, right? So the first one pens me. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so 790 bounce damage later, I have face hugged in my Iron Arnie medium a G-Sword who's being a little bit lazy about where to shoot. Notice he tried to get the hatch later on the second, maybe the third shot is where he moved. But the first two, he just decided he was going to own me, right? He kind of lull pinned me the first time, and then I face hugged him with all that spaced armor and angle. And I think he probably shot into my matlet once, maybe the other bounce, I don't know. And, you know, point of it being is surprisingly good armor in certain situations, especially hold down. But that face hug thing, that's really the only option I had. If I kept backing up, I think he just picks me apart through the lower hole, despite some of the spaced armor right there. But you are going to find that a bit with old Iron Arnie there. Arnie knows how to take a hit, all right? The kind of the Terminator idea right there, right? The Terminator just keeps on getting bashed by everything, but does not go down. All right, let's wrap it up. Give you my opinion of the Iron Arnie. Well, all right, we've gone over a couple things it can do, at least what I think it can do, a couple things I think it can't do, gave you a little bit of gameplay to look at that. But what are the facts? What are the facts? Because it's been 2 weeks, we have a little bit of data. Let's take a look here at tomato.gg in the last 60 days, which is obviously going to cover the Iron Arnie, sorted by win rate, and we have the Iron Arnie showing up, where is he? Right here at what? 7th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th. Okay, 6 in win rate. DPG. So, you know, it's not challenging the Burr or the Astron or even the AMBT. DPG, a little, I would expect that to be a relatively lower. It's just a DPM kind of idea with the tank. It does last quite a long time, so I think that's helping the DPG just a bit, but a little bit lower. Still in the top 10 or so. In frags, we are looking at kind of a similar situation. It's down in the top 20-ish. Damage ratio, what are we looking at for Iron Arnie? He's back up to about 6th place right there. Kills to death. Iron Arnie drops down. So what do we have here? Survival, though, very interesting. He's 4th, based on the armor, I would say, pretty much exclusively right there. So what do we have here? Well, we definitely have a top 10 cyclical firing tier 8 tank with some really good armor. And it's a slower playstyle. It's a more careful, considered playstyle. And if that is your thing, this may be your tank. I would not necessarily call it a sniper in terms of hanging back and being careful. But if you are near the front, being careful with your pokes, using your gun depression where you can, trying to hide the hole as much as possible, although the hole is much better than many mediums you'll find out there, and probably better than some heavies, to be quite honest. This can be a very effective tank in getting some damage down range, keeping you in the battle, and helping you win some games. And as evidenced by the evidence, as potentially proved by the evidence so far, this is absolutely a top 10 as of right now premium tier 8 medium tank. I like it. I would recommend it. I think it's, let's not say it's worth it in terms of buying boxes. The boxes themselves are worth it. If you get one of these in the boxes, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. That's all I've got for today, guys. If you have the Iron Arnie or you have an opinion about it, go ahead and chuck it down in the comments. I would be happy to hear it and respond to it and all that good stuff. I do appreciate your support of the channel. I hope you're having a fantastic holiday so far. I'm making this video on my first day of my 2 weeks off, so pretty excited about that. We will see you guys on stream and all that good stuff. That's all I've got for today. We will see ya.